right, 25 now before the top of the hour. This may impact you personally or it may impact somebody you love. And look, when we talk about elder abuse, that's something always just, gosh, it gives me great pause. And I've done shows on that in the past. But what I wanted to talk a little bit about with you today is the financial elder abuse as well. As our nation gets older, there are more people who are going to have trouble dealing with their money. So most middle-class people, they tend to get, better off as they get older, and as they have children, they leave their investments, and they begin to pay off. But then they get to retirement age, and you may not be as sharp as you once were. Dementia, Alzheimer's, lots of different things can affect you, and sometimes people take advantage of that. Sometimes people just take advantage of their loved ones. In fact, there is one lawyer estimates about $30 billion. That's what it'd be, $30 billion. $30 billion a year is lost by older people who abuse their trust and their family members, and they make up about 90% of the cases. Family members, friends, and I don't know. I don't even like talking about this, to be honest. It really bothers me to think that somebody would do that. And money does strange things to people. It really does. It does strange things to people. You probably have seen it. Maybe a loved one has died, and you've seen the division in the family over this. Maybe, someone doesn't want to give the loved one a particular care because they want the money from it. If you've got somebody, get them plugged into this. We're going to talk about it. If you have an experience, love to hear from you, too. Our number is 888-914-9149. ABC Detroit actually did, I thought, a great piece on elder financial abuse. This will give you kind of some insight on what's going down, put it into perspective for you.
74-year-old Arthur Green spent years building his lakeside home. He says recently he was persuaded to sign it over to his granddaughter and was told he could live out his days there.
And all of a sudden, she just like I don't know what, snap of the finger, she changed. She got money hungry.
His granddaughter tried to evict him and sell the property.
Arthur was absolutely at risk of homelessness. He was also completely impoverished because this land and house is the only thing of any value he owned in the world.
Dennis Cully, Green's lawyer, says financial exploitation of seniors is all too common and often goes unreported. A Consumer Reports investigation finds theft and fraud by loved ones is on the rise.
Caregivers, family members, neighbors, they can use all kinds of tactics to raid their assets.
They can be as obvious as forging signatures on checks, begging for loans that are never paid back, or abusing power of attorney.
When you give power of attorney to somebody, it can give them unfettered access to your accounts. Somebody who misuses those can do real damage, and that's a real problem for the elderly.
Consumer Reports says to help prevent elder abuse, have bank and investment statements sent to a person you trust to monitor accounts, arrange for direct deposit and automatic bill pay, and consult a reputable elder law attorney for advice on wills and limiting power of attorney. Fortunately for Arthur, a legal services program for the elderly he consulted obtained a court order voiding the granddaughter's deed, returning the property to him.
Just so sad he'd even have to go through that. As I said, money does strange things to people. So to answer your questions, to give you some perspective on this, is a super lawyer. Michael Hackard is an L.A. super lawyer with 40 years of experience in the area. He recently authored a book. Grab a pen and paper, too. I'm going to tell you how you can get his book, okay? This might be something you want for your own personal library. It's called The Wolf at Your Door, Undue Influence and Elder Financial Abuse. The Wolf at Your Door. Undue influence and elder financial abuse, something that, I have not really focused a whole lot on in the past, and as I began to learn more about this, the numbers are just staggering. He joins us today. Hey, Michael, thank you for your good work, and thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on your show, Drew.
Well, you say that 90% of this abuse is taking place by people who are closest to these elders, like that story we just heard, a granddaughter. I won't ask you why they're doing it, because I think it's pretty obvious, but how are they doing it? How are they getting away with manipulating their loved ones and exploiting their money?
Okay, so there are a variety of means, and there are some things that seem to be almost universal. So, and it usually starts with the isolation of the elder in one way or the other. Maybe it's a granddaughter, or maybe it's a child, or even a neighbor, but somehow gets close to the elder and starts to prevent others from communicating with the elder. And it may be that the elder's cell phone is thrown away. The other common areas, or people are not allowed into the house, or it's said that the elder is sleeping, or if they get into the house, another very common one that we see is there's a baby monitor in the bedroom so that whoever it is that's isolating the senior can hear whatever's going on. So isolation, and then along with it can go changed estate plans, changed securities accounts, changed bank accounts, transfers of house assets, and a lot of it where the senior simply doesn't know what's going on.
That's tragic, isn't it? It's just, to me, it's amazing. There are steps I'm sure people can employ to prevent this from happening. What advice would you give?
Well, I'd give advice that the senior, the elder, work with a trusted person. Hopefully that's a child or two, and to share estate planning documents with that person, also to allow that person to be able to look at bank accounts or securities to make sure nothing's going on there. And I always tell the family members too, it just induces paranoia if only one family member has that kind of access. So it's very good to be able to share it with several family members.
Yeah, so true. Hey, my guest today is Michael Hackard. If you want to join us, I'll open the phones too. If you've got a question, an experience, something you've gone through as well, grab a pen and paper too. I want to give you his email. He'll send you out a copy of his book. Our number here, 888-914-9149. We'll go to Germantown, Wisconsin first. Rosemary, thank you for calling. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe. Thanks for taking my call. I really appreciate it. Like I told the person I first talked to when I called in, since this Christmas, I've had various illness problems. One nearly passed away twice, and one was just a week ago. Mm-hmm. So I only have one daughter, and I took care prior to a few months back. Took care of my business with her. So her name is on my checking account and savings account or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I gave her inheritance, which was my big house that I live in senior living apartment right now, because I wasn't able physically to take care of my property. I would have to hire somebody to do it. Right. So why not with her 4 children and husband live in my home? So she got her inheritance. But I had other plans, like to give, because from when my husband passed away 10 years ago, he left me a pretty good life insurance policy, and I put money in for the children's fund for college, right. And I want to give now to the charities like for Reverend Radio and other special needs for poor children that are dying of hunger and whatnot. Right. And she's totally against that. So she's taking it out on me. Okay. Little by little in sneaky little ways, and she's being very disrespectful. Like she wants to take, like I go to Mass every day. I still drive. The doctor says I can drive. Right. But she wants to go to, because my license is due the summer of my birthday in July. Right. She wants to go to the state and say I'm unable to drive, so that they revoke my drive.
Rosemary, let me hold you on this point. First of all, let me express my condolence, because I'm sorry that you have got to go through this with your own daughter. Michael, what advice would you give to her? She already gave her daughter her inheritance, yet her daughter has access to her funds and is now beginning to take them away. And she may have other children or causes she wants to support. What can Rosemary do? She seems very cognizant.
Yes, she does. If there is a person that both you and your daughter trust, I'd ask for a meeting with your daughter with that person, and to be able to express just what you said with that person, who hopefully will then assist and convince your daughter that, you have every right to do this. This truly is your money, and it should be your desires that are taken care of. So that's the best approach. There are other approaches that people can actually hire people that are mediators, that are trained in dealing with family issues. And sometimes in this area, a mediator can be effective. In one sense, the lawyer I would say, is the last resort, provided that, and hopefully your daughter will just come to realize that what you're saying is right and you need to be respected.
All right. Well,
would you believe I have somebody in mind? I have a nephew that is a pastor of Wisconsin Lutheran Senate. My sister would have been Catholic, but when she got married, it was back when they didn't have annulments yet, and so she wasn't able to marry
Well-
in the church, so she married in her husband's church, which happened to be Wisconsin Senate.
Well-
And she has a son and he is very good at finances. He's very good at everything.
Well, Rosemary, if you trust him and he's good at finances, that sounds like a solution. Reach out to him, explain the situation, and look, you're still in control, and you can certainly, you can certainly resolve this issue. We'll certainly help you. You've got a book too to help people better understand this, don't you, Michael? What resources would you offer?
If people would like to have the book for free, and I'll pay the postage, if they send me an email to hackard@hackardlaw.com, I'll send them a copy of The Wolf at the Door, Undue Influence and Elder Financial Abuse. And it has stories in it, and I think it would be helpful.
So it's Hackard, Hackard.
That's
Law, right? Hackard Law?
It's hackard@hackardlaw.com. Yeah.
Hackard@hackardlaw.com.
Yeah.
And you pay for the postage? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Michael?
I'll pay for the postage. This is
That's great. Wow.
And like you, Drew, I think this is a very important subject for the people in our country and for older people, and it's something I like to do.
All right. Again, it's Hackard@hackardlaw.com.
Yes.
And the book is called The Wolf at Your Door. If you are facing this, it may give you some great advice or help you prepare for your own estate as you get a little bit closer. We'll go back to the phones, take a few more. Before I go to the phones, I mean, just a personal question, because divorce is so big in our country right now. And so many marriages are broken. And as a result, people remarry. And now you've got stepchildren involved. Are we seeing a greater problem in those new relationships or between steps? Or is this common straight across the board? And, what do you do, especially when it may not be brother and sister, but it may be stepbrother and stepsister, and that dynamic can be a little bit different?
Yeah, that is a big-time difference. And so even though my evidence is anecdotal, I've done this for a fair amount of time, and I see it. And so one of the things when it comes to stepmothers, stepfathers, is that there are some different statistics. Some statistic that says 20% of stepchildren do not get along with their stepmothers. Other statistics, there are more than 11 million stepmother widows in the United States, and just a little more than 2 million stepfather widowers. So you're going to see the incidents happening with stepmothers. And I was happy both Market Watch and Forbes, both of them published a chapter of my book on stepmothers. And again, I wasn't trying to beat up on them, but it's just the truth.
Right. All right. Well, let's go back to the phones and grab a few more calls. We'll go to Anonymous, listening in Illinois. Hi, Anonymous. Welcome.
Which Anonymous?
That's you. Hi.
Oh, hi. Okay. I have kind of a good story, but my dad passed away in 1989, and he accumulated some money, and I have to tell you, he was like picking aluminum cans, and my parents would go out, and he made a fair amount of money on it, and bought himself a new car. Anyway, that he had his money in money market, and every once in a while, when the rates would change, he would just go right over to the bank and redid it and whatever you have to do.
Right.
And so when he died, he left my brother, who is second in line, I'm the eldest, in charge of everything, and he paid bills and everything like that. And so, of course, I'm looking at the statements when they come in. I didn't live with my mother. I have to travel like 45 minutes to get to her. Anyway, and I'm noticing, that the money's going. I mean, we still got burial lots to pay off and the secondary insurance. So anyway, and it's coming up short. And so I told my mother, I says, what's going on here? So we went down to the bank, and sure enough, my brother had talked my mother into signing some papers that he says, oh, Mom, you're going to make more money, and this is like a good thing. What he did is he borrowed $8,500 from it.
Wow.
And because he had a business of his own, and he had to make his payroll, for his workers. And I seen that, and boy, I just nailed him to the wall. And I went down, and I had every change over to my name, and everything went smooth after that. But yeah, that was quite a bit of money, and
it certainly was.
You got to watch out for that.
Thank you for calling it on. Let me hold you on that because it brings up another point. I mean, look, you trust your siblings in most cases here, Michael, and
Yeah.
I mean, should we be skeptical? I mean, what are the safeguards, the protocols, the things that we should do to make sure that our parents' interest, or if we are the elderly person here, that there's a check and balance to make sure that somebody, because like I said before, money does strange things to people. It really does, even to family members. Is there some sort of checks and balance that somebody can put into place to make sure that they're not taking advantage like that?
Yeah, our lady from Illinois certainly set one up, didn't she, by being able to review her mother's accounts, and that's a great check and balance because you'll pick things up out of that. The other thing that in some other ways is just to look around the house and see whether the items that were there are still there. Because sometimes you see silver missing, and as people get older, then they don't know where it is.
That's true. The other thing is I don't want to beat up on family members because I think a lot of family members love their parents, or the parents can trust their children. But I feel bad for the elderly who are often scammed, and there's a lot of scams that are targeted towards the elderly. What are some of the most common scams? Maybe you can share with those who are listening to maybe be on the lookout for.
Okay, well, a publisher's clearinghouse scam, and where some senior is called on the telephone and is told that, say, they that they won $3 million, but then in order to collect the $3 million, they must prepay their taxes. I saw a one like that where the elder thought she was prepaying taxes, and she put up $300,000, which was almost all the money she had. And that $300,000 went away. My memory was an offshore scam, so there was really no way to collect it back. There are more